So I'm definitely going to participate in her. We're going to talk about these contests. We're going to talk about what Lauren has been up to. We're going to talk about her journey, her path, and everything that she's been up to, man. Like, she has an amazing story, and I can't wait to dive in. We're going to go through the journey of Lauren Brill. So let's bring on Lauren Brill.
Hi.
What's going on? So y'all seen her get a little dance on, and then she stopped. She's that girl in the club that started dancing, and then you came up to her. She was like, "I don't want to dance. I saw you dancing."
I am that girl.
I don't want to dance.
That is definitely
me. Well, I'm so glad to have you on here, Lauren, because
thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because you highlight a lot of people's stories. I heard this one amazing story. I listened on a podcast, and you were talking about visiting like some inmates, and they had been in prison for murder.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna go there
a couple times.
Yeah, she went to prison. She went to prison. So she's been in prison. I'm just playing. She went there to visit. She didn't, But I definitely wanted to hear that story again, or for my audience for the first time, because they've never heard that story, and I had to mention that right now because I do want to get into that. So if I forget, you have to remind me. I want you to share like that experience in that story. And it was a short story, so you don't have to elaborate on the whole thing, but how you met those two guys and what their experience was like, So all right. So
you want me to share that story now?
No. We'll save those guys for later, unless you want to do it now. Do you want to do it now? If you want to do it now, you can do it now. Do it now. Let's do it now. Let's do it now, because we're talking about purpose. We're talking about purpose, and you find yourself at a prison. Just go ahead and share that story, and then we'll dive into some other things.
So I've actually been to prison several times, and I rarely do the same story twice because it's not interesting to me the second time. Yeah. But this story I found particularly interesting. And so I did it when I was an intern. I did it when I was in Buffalo. And then I did it again when I was in Cleveland. And the story is about missionaries. They're called the Saints that go to prisons to play sports against inmates. And they use sports as a way to break down the social barrier. And then they teach the inmates about their religion and God in between games, or maybe at halftime, they pass out a Bible. Yeah. And so I was at this one prison. This was when I was working in Buffalo. I forgot the name of the prison, but it was a maximum security prison. And there were two guys that I interviewed who were both there for 30 years to life. And after the cameras were not rolling and we were just kind of like hanging out, chilling and watching the baseball game and whatever, I was asking one of the guys, we were just having a casual conversation. And one of the guys said to me that if he ever gets out of prison, he wants to work in a hospice. And I said, how did you go from wanting to help people? How did you go from killing someone to wanting to help people? Because he was in jail for murder. And he goes, I don't know at what point the light bulb went off, but at some point I just realized I wanted to be a product of who I was, not where I came from. He said, most of us here weren't born bad people. We were born into really bad circumstances, but didn't have the mental fortitude or the resources or the support or whatever it was to overcome their circumstances. And that just really stuck with me, that everyone kind of gets dealt a different hand, and you really just shouldn't judge. And so kind of changed my perspective when I had that conversation with him, or just enlightened me a little bit. Yeah.
And how old were you when that happened?
So I first went to prison when I was the first time I did the story, I was 19. That conversation happened when I was 26. Okay. That was the second time when I was in Buffalo when I was 26. So it was just, I was probably grew up a little bit. I think we all grew up somewhat sheltered in the bubble of our environment. And so my bubble did not include knowing a lot of people who went to jail. So talking to him and talking to the other inmates there really just opened my eyes a little bit. And I think I had a lot of or I don't know a lot, but some preconceived notions about what I thought I would meet and what I thought I would see in prison. And it was very different than what I think I thought. I think there's always just more than meets the eye, and things aren't always as simple as they appear. Obviously I don't condone violence and I don't approve of any bad behavior, but I just think things are not as simple as they appear.
That's so real. Come on, Lauren, you're getting real. I'm glad I'm glad you shared that.
I also learned it's not my responsibility to judge anybody, right? Like we have God for that. My job is to, be a good person and spread goodness to other people and be kind and be accepting and have compassion, and hopefully we can help lift each other up, even no matter how low someone has been in life.
Wow.
So it's just not my job to judge what he did or somebody else did. It's just my job to spread love, spread kindness, be compassionate, help people share their stories and their messages, whatever they may be.
Yeah. Wow. See, look at, come on, Lord. Everybody give her a round of applause or something. That was awesome. I love that. I love where your heart is. I love where your heart is. And for you to go through your journey, right? And get to this place where you want to share letters to people, and you ghostwrite these letters. Like, we recently did something to where you spoke to me on the phone. Yeah, you're working on it, but you interviewed me, and now you're going to take what we did in our interview and what I said in the interview, and you're going to write a letter. Can you go ahead and tell people about the process of the Unsealed? Like, what do you do with the Unsealed?
So the Unsealed is a platform where I help people write and share their stories in the form of open letters. We also do conversations every week. We do writing contests. We will help people learn how to write. We do all sorts of other different things, but the foundation of the company and the core, and what I really started it with, was this idea of helping people share open letters. And I do it by interviewing people, and then I use their words to craft the letter for them, and then they can read it back and check it, and then we post it. And the reason I chose open letters was because I was sexually assaulted as a teenager, and I never really talked about it. Then I started telling my family and friends just really minimal details and just letting them know what happened in my mid-20s. And then in my early 30s, I came across a girl who I did a story with. And at first, she didn't want to share her story. She was abused by her boyfriend, and then she changed her mind. And then I did an interview with her for my station. I was working in Cleveland for the ABC affiliate there at the time. And I did this interview, and she gave an emotional, powerful, amazing interview. And her story went viral in Cleveland. And after her story aired, I said, "Why did you change your mind? How did you go from being so against sharing your story to being so emotional and so transparent and so vulnerable?" And she said, "Lauren, I realized it's the silence of victims that allow predators to continue their predatory behavior." And so when she said that, it really hit me. I was like, all right, I need to do something. Like, I need to share my story. And so I decided to write an open letter, because a letter to sexual assault, I wrote it to sexual assault survivors, and I realized a letter would kind of give my story more purpose. It wasn't just about me. It would give it purpose. It was for other people. It would help somebody else. And so thinking about my story being for someone else was really powerful.
Wow. And the first thing I would say is, I'm sorry that you had to experience that. And I know a lot of people experience that, and they don't ever get it out. So thank you for sharing that. That's pretty brave. You know, sometimes, like, when we have those stories that people read about or they hear about, but they never experience, they don't meet people who have been through it, because they don't let it out. They don't talk about it. And it seems easy for us.
Everyone knows someone who's been through it. It's just a matter of people talking about it.
Exactly. People talking about it. And sometimes it's like that stigma, like, you don't want to talk, but don't talk about that, but you have to, because there's other people who are suffering in the silence, and while they suffer in the silence, people are getting away with it. People are doing what they want, but I just, it's a real thing. And the crazy thing is, when I was a kid, I had a babysitter, and I don't remember who she was, but one day I caught her with her boyfriend, and I was probably like 4 or 5. And, I caught her with a boyfriend, and they were having sex. And, me as a kid, I'm just like, what is going on in here? And, like, she pretty much alludes to saying, like, don't tell your father. And, and she pretty much put my mouth on her breast as a child. And a lot of people never really knew about that. And I tell certain people here and there, but, like, I just started remembering that. I just remembered that, like, a couple of years ago. And I was telling my wife, I was like, man, this memory just keeps popping back up in my mind. And it, like, brought me to tears, the day that I was thinking about it, so you know, but it's so long ago and so deep in my past that was a different experience for me. But I do feel like it had an effect on who I am as a man and what I went through as a young boy, you know, in the world. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give to people who have experienced that traumatic experience?
I think it's really important that people express themselves, and I think everyone expresses themselves differently, so find what works for them. I actually wrote a book before I wrote that letter, and it was a book of letters, actually, and they were letters to all different, you know, parts of myself when I look back at it and really think about it. But for me, writing is the way I express myself, and that's why I gravitated toward creating something like the Unsealed. But for someone else, it may be art, it may be music, it may be conventional therapy, it may be just talking to your best friend. Just find an outlet that allows you to get your emotions, your feelings, and your story out, even if it's just out of your body and not out for the whole world to see and not publicly. Just get it out of your system. And I think that will make you feel a lot better in ways that you don't even realize until you let it out in some form or another.
Right. Come on. You get that's so real, because the reason why I started writing poetry like really heavy, like it started meaning something to me, was when I was going through PTSD and my suicidal thoughts. You know, like I started writing because I did not know how to tell people what was going on with me. It's hard to tell someone, hey, I feel like killing myself because of this explosion or because of this situation. Whatever people go through, it's hard to tell someone, hey, I'm planning to kill myself. You know, it's hard to do that. But the moment I started to write poetry, I was like, wow, the light bulb came on, because I saw the darkness that was inside of me. Have you ever experienced something like that, where you had, like, because of these traumatic experiences, was there ever a period of time in your life where you had that darkness that you realized was there all along?
Did I ever have darkness that I realized was there all along?
Yeah, like from traumatic experiences or anything.
So
like what you went through
Yeah.
had an effect on your life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you wrestle with it mentally, emotionally, like I don't know what you went through, but I'm talking about that period. Was there a time where after this thing happened, like, you know, how did you process it? And like, what were you going through? And did you battle like those thoughts of like, I don't want to be here, or like, what kind of things were you battling?
Yeah, I never battled suicidal thoughts or depression. My biggest struggle was anxiety. I had a lot of fear, so I couldn't stay home alone at night. I couldn't walk anywhere. I still don't like walking alone at night, to be honest. If I'm with somebody, I'll always be like, hey, can you walk me to my car and stuff like that. Fear was really, it was fear, but it was to the extreme. If I was a college student the year after, and I went to college at 17. So I was a college student. I couldn't walk on campus by myself. I would call my boyfriend, hey, can you come walk me from like 10 feet away? Like you can walk me from here to there. And if I was forced to walk by myself just by circumstances and I was alone, I would get back to my dorm room and just like burst into tears because I'd be relieved that I was safe. So it was just like an extreme fear and constantly nervous about my safety. And the other struggle I really had was eating. I couldn't eat very much after I was assaulted. I really struggled with eating, and I ended up losing 30 pounds after I was assaulted, 30 pounds from the weight I'm at now. And you probably can tell enough that I'm not overweight. Like I'm thin now. So I was 30 pounds lighter than I am right now. And I mean, I didn't stay that low for very long. That was like the lowest I was, but I just couldn't eat. And it was just from holding something inside and being anxious and being scared and just feeling a loss of control. And I was, it took me years to gain back the weight. It didn't happen right away. And it took me years to be healthy again. So that's what I struggled with and it was all tied together. When I told my mother what happened and I really told her my whole story, that's when I stopped getting stomach aches. And that's when I started eating healthy again and getting back to a healthy weight. So I didn't realize how connected the mind and body were until I started dealing with my anxiety and talking to my mom about what happened. And then all of a sudden my stomach feels better and I'm, gaining back weight and I'm healthy like I once was. So I didn't realize the connection until later on.
Yeah. That's real. And thank you for sharing that. Like that's real, and I'm the guy that when I connect with people, I want to know, I want to know who you are. I want to know, not like, oh man, I made it out of this situation. Like I made it out of suicidal thoughts. I made it out of Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah.
And I don't want to connect with people based on, I deployed, and I was in an explosion, and that's all I do. But I want to go to the place where this traumatic experience happened to me. But here's the effect of it. Here's how it made an impact on my life. For like the anxiety that you talk about, like, oh my God, like walking in the dark, like always feeling like somebody was coming to do something to me. Like I'm checking, like I would leave my chair in the hallway of my home in my apartment in Virginia. I would leave it in the middle just in case somebody like would come in. They wouldn't know, like, oh, let me not move this chair because he purposely put it here. I did that, and it was driving me crazy, Lauren. It was driving me crazy. So thank God you never went to the point of like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore, because that's a hard place to come back from.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for bouncing back and for reclaiming your time, because you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone reacts to every situation a little bit differently, and for me, fear and anxiety was kind of my negative repercussion of my assault. But I think once you go through something and you come out on the other side of it, you really start to realize how strong you are. Now any other challenge that I face in life, I'm like, all right, I got this. I went through this when I was younger, when I was 16 years old, and I got on, I was able to handle that. So what you got for me? What's next for me, world? Right. So it allows you to approach life a little bit differently when you go through something really hard and come on the other side of it. It makes you feel more empowered. It makes you go through life believing that you can handle the challenges and punches that life throws at you. Because as we all know, life keeps throwing you punches. You get through one, and then there's another one waiting.
There's another one coming around with an elbow and a knee. Like,
you're like, all right, what you got for me next?
It's true.
But you got to fight back, right? So you just keep pushing away.
Yep. Pastor Speller says, you must go through to get it. You must go through. You must go through to get to. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's right. So, Lauren, you're dropping bars first and foremost. Thank you for coming on here dropping bars. Everybody say dropping bars. So, I know I like to just, if I feel it, I'm going to dive in. I know podcasts usually like, oh, where you're from? What do you like to, what do you like to eat and all that stuff. But, with me, it's like, let's dive in. Let's get to it. And I really want to get to the meat of your story and your journey. So this is really helpful, because before we go into this journey of like living out our purpose, it's important for people to know. And one of the reasons why you have the Unsealed is so that people could see beyond the smiles on Instagram and social media and stuff, right? Because everyone has a story behind that smile. So it's amazing that you're allowing, and you have this platform where people can do a thing like that, to share their story, to bring other people out of their prisons, right? Because that stuff can be, it could be like a jail sentence,
I think with social media, people often try to like put forth this perfect life that they have. But I think, we all have challenges and we all have struggles, and there's an authenticity that I think sometimes we all hide. And I wanted to create a space where people could be real and could be vulnerable, but that didn't have to be weak, or that didn't have to be bad. That didn't have to be stigmatized. It could actually be empowering and a sign of strength and a place of inspiration.
Yeah. Come on. See, you do this, like, y'all, if you want her to write a letter for y'all or anything, y'all need to hit her up. If you need help in your writing, hit her up. Look at her, like the way she talks, what she talks about, how passionate she is. It's in her work. So the Unsealed, come on, like that says so much, like the Unsealed, because sometimes it's mostly sealed. For our whole lives, we carry these stories with us, and we're afraid of letting people know what's inside the envelope, what's inside the soul. So thank you so much for that. All right, so I was listening to an interview, and you were talking about your love for sports, right? And how you would go with your dad to the hockey games. Is it matches?
Yeah, or games? That's how I fell in love with sports, is going to games with my dad.
Yeah. So could you share that story? Like, so you got into sport as a sportscaster, news anchor, right? So you started off with your dad going to sports.
So basically the story goes, I was about 6 years old. My brother's 4 years older than me. So he was 10. And I don't know if it was a holiday or a birthday, but he came home and said, I got you and your friend season tickets to the Rangers. So he split with another father season tickets to the New York Rangers. So they would go to like every other game, but it was only 2 seats. And I said, excuse me, do you think because I'm a girl that I don't want to go? 6 years old. And my dad was like, we'll switch off. So for maybe the first 2 seasons, he would take my brother to a game, then he would take me to the game. And then my brother goes, Dad, I'm not really into this whole hockey thing. You could just take Lauren. So we would go to games all the time, me and my dad. And I'm 6, 7, 8 years old. My mom wanted to dress me in bows and skirts and dresses. And I wanted to wear Messier jerseys and Brian Leach jerseys. And I would go to the games and I would scream fight the entire game. All I wanted to see them do is fight. And like, I just loved it. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the fans. I loved competition. I was really athletic as a kid. I was actually voted most athletic in high school.
Oh, wow. Superlatives, right? That's what.
Yeah. So like I was good at sports. I like sports. I like competitions. I like hockey. I like spending time with my dad. Like I got alone time with my dad. It was just me and him going to the hockey games. So I like that too. And then it was the year, I think it was 95, 94, 95. I could be wrong. The year the Rangers won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And it was the year after they won the Stanley Cup.
Okay. I don't know, but I'm just
I don't remember. I think they won the cup in 95, but I could be wrong. It was 94, 95. And the year after they made the playoffs that year, and me and my dad are at a playoff game and we're walking, and this woman comes up to us and she's like, I don't see a lot of dads and daughters coming to games. I used to go to games with my dad. I have a seat in the front row. Would you like it? And I was like, "Peace out, Dad." It's the playoffs,
no.
I was 10, and we ended up going to the front row, and she ended up having an extra seat nearby, so my dad could come down too. But we started talking to her, and she was a VP for ABC, and that's how she had the ABC seats. And I started talking to her about her career and what she does. And she said, we broadcast sporting events. And I was like, wait a minute, I could be on TV, go to games for free and just talk about sports and get paid. Like this whole idea of going to games for free and that she had like free front row seats, tickets was like mind blowing for this 10-year-old who loved going to games with her dad. So I was like, Dad, I'm going to be a sportscaster. And he's like, okay, honey, like that's sweet. Like, okay. I'm like, no, I'm going to be a sportscaster. And I kept saying it. And I'm 9th, 10th grade. He's like, just go to the best college you can get into. And if you still want to do this whole sportscasting thing after that, then go do it. And I think he figured like I'd probably change my mind. And so he really pushed me to focus on my academics. And he basically, I knew the better I did in school, the more support I would get in whatever it is that I said I wanted to do. Right. So I ended up going to an Ivy League college and, appeasing my father with the whole go to the good school thing. I went to Columbia University, and then I was like, hey, I still want to be a sportscaster. So then I was a sports writer for my first year out of college. I worked for NBA.com and WNBA.com. And then after that, for 10 years, I worked as a sportscaster. And then I decided to take on a new challenge and start my own company. And I started the Unsealed 2 years ago.
Wow. Come on. So it started as a child. As a child, there was purpose.
There was purpose. There was I want to go to games for free.
Right. I mean, that's a good thing. Like it helped you connect you to like where you would be in the future, and you didn't even know what was going to happen yet. Like think about that. Like just from the hockey, I know you have, but everybody else, think about it. Like from the hockey games to being an anchor, right? Like a sports anchor. So that's amazing to have that connection. And I wonder what inspired her. Like, so, you said her seeing you there as a girl with your father inspired her to come to you, right?
Yeah. So she didn't see a lot of I'm 35, right? So this is a solid 25 years ago, there weren't as many dads taking their daughters to games. It was dads taking their sons to games. And that would have been my dad too, had I not had a big mouth and been like, excuse me.
Right.
So she just didn't see a lot of girls with their dads at the game. So she saw me and him walking and was like, hey, like, come take this seat. And she was a great athlete. She was a speed skater. So I think she was an Olympic speed skater too. But yeah, so that was, and it's interesting because I think when I was younger, I wanted to be a sportscaster because I liked attention, I liked the camera, and I liked sports, and I liked competition, and I liked going to games. Like really kind of, I was passionate, but it was really superficial things that attracted me to the profession. Then as I got deeper into sports reporting, I really fell in love with the art of storytelling. And then I also in college, I majored in sociology. And then even in sports, I really started to delve into the impact of social issues in sports and sexism and racism and LGBTQ community. And I started doing all these stories. And my passions became a little bit, I would say, more it had more substance. So now like my passions really lie in the storytelling and the movements and making a difference and having a message and helping create more equality in this world. And I like to say with the Unsealed, I took everything that I loved about sportscasting and I created my own company to combine these new passions that I developed since being 8, 9, 10 years old when I really initially had that dream of being a sportscaster. So a lot has happened since 10 years old that I picked up on all these other passions and I was able to follow through with my sportscasting dream, but then I was able to take all these other new interests that I had, combine it with my sportscasting passion and create something completely different, which is the Unsealed.
Yeah. So that's powerful. That's really powerful. Yeah. I hope other people out there, like if you have something that you loved when you were a child and maybe people didn't pay much attention to that. But it was always there. And now as an adult, you're not satisfied with where you are. You don't feel like you're walking or living in your purpose. Maybe you need to tap back into your youth. Maybe you need to tap back in, reach back, see what inspired you, see what caught your eye and maybe reignite that fire. So it could bless you in the long run. So I'm glad that you found it. I'm glad that you found your purpose in the midst of your journey. You know, you were doing what you had to do. You went to college, you know, you had your jobs, right? And then you have your real desire. You're like, I could take everything that I went through and apply it to something that I want, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started to realize, so I was up for a job working for the same network that used to air Rangers games. And it was down to me and one other person. And I ended up not getting this job. But while I was up for the job, I was actually more scared to get it than not get it because I started to feel like there was something else that I wanted and I wasn't going to be able to pursue it if I got this job. And I realized that my 10-year-old girl dream wasn't my dream at 30. And I realized dreams change and they evolve as people change and evolve. Yeah. And so I think people should go after what they want when they want it, but then it might surprise them and lead them to something else. So I like to say my dream led me to my purpose. So my dream was to be a sportscaster, and sportscasting led me to the Unsealed, which I believe is where I really found my purpose and what was really meant for me in life.
So how does it feel like, you know, after you look back over everything and you look at where you are now, how does it feel to be in your purpose, have your dreams bring you to your purpose? How does it feel to be in it now?
It's stressful.
I was going to say, like, it's a beautiful thing.
There's two parts of it. It's very satisfying, very fulfilling, but it's also stressful because you're like, this is mine and this has to work. Hustle. There's a lot of, everything that good happens, you really feel, and everything that's disappointing, you really feel because it matters so much to you. Yeah. So it's definitely emotional and it's definitely satisfying and it's definitely fulfilling, but it's also hard and it's also scary because if this doesn't work, then what else is there? This is my purpose. I found what I'm supposed to do. And so there's this feeling of, well, this has to work.
Come on. Like
I realized the sun's going down as we're talking.
It is going down. I was like, I was looking down. I was like, wait a second. Did her light go off?
Yeah, like the sun's going down. I'm like, uh-oh.
Did you need to cut a light on or what?
You let me turn a light on for you.
All right.
On.
You go ahead and do that. Go ahead. So, guys, we are interviewing Lauren Brill. She has her light on. I'm about to bring her back on right now.
There we go.
Damn, there we go.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. We're doing a live. So doing lives, you can't really plan for lives because anything could go down. My internet was just doing some weird stuff. Like, I don't know what's going on outside. But so I have some questions. I know, like, I sent you an email with like a lot of questions. I had a whole layout: journey to purpose, finding your purpose, walking in your purpose. I just did this because of a guy, James. I was on his podcast and he had a whole like format: the hammer, the pen, the sword. I was like, let me try to do something with purpose. And but I like writing down questions, but I also love tapping into the now, tapping into the person that's here, because I mean, everybody has asked you questions before, but just having that spontaneous conversation and just learning more about you, which is what people love too. So I thank you for being willing for this interview.
Oh, of course, my pleasure. Thank you for your interest.
So, oh man, like you have an amazing journey, like to Columbia University and to excel as a student, and then to start working with the NBA, WNBA.com. Like that's just amazing overall. Like, how was that possible? Like what did you do to get there?
So to get to the NBA?
Yeah.
So I'm a little aggressive. I wrote an email to every executive in the NBA when I was I want to say junior in college.
Yeah.
I might have been, my junior year, maybe. My junior year of college. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies have an email scheme. So like the NBA's was first letter, last name at NBA.com. So I was like, cool, David Stern, Stern at NBA.com. Got it. So I sent a letter to the commissioner, the president of NBA TV, everybody. And I wrote a really creative letter because, letters are my thing and they've always been my thing. I killed it with letters.
Yeah.
And I wrote this letter and I sent it to all the, I literally sent it to every executive I could find a name for it in the NBA. Yeah. And sure enough, I got a call from the commissioner's office and the president of NBA TV.
Wow.
So I had an interview with HR in the city for the NBA, and that was through the commissioner's office. I guess the commissioner forwarded the email to HR, and they brought me in because the email came from the commissioner. And the commissioner was like, well, you have to be, I think it was you have to be a senior to get an internship, or you have to I wasn't of age to do anything with them yet. So I was like, okay. And then the president of NBA TV called me, and then I had an interview there as well. And he was like, how many people did you send this letter to? I was like, I don't know, 50? Come
on.
And he was like, I love it. I've never got anything like this.
Yeah.
And he gave me a part-time job. Wow. So I worked part-time my junior year and my senior year at the NBA. And my senior year, it was NBA TV. I found out that my bosses there were great. I had great bosses. It was unfortunately one of my bosses who were there passed away a couple of years ago, and everyone was really great about honoring him. He was a really great man. But he actually, Todd, set me up with the internet.com department and said, hey, all this WNBA stuff is being outsourced. All the writing is being outsourced. You want to do it? I was like, got it, done.
Wow.
I read it. So my senior year, I was writing all the season previews and reviews for WNBA.com, and they thought I did a good job. So then when I was heading toward graduation, they interviewed me, and I ended up getting a full-time job as a writer for WNBA.com. I wrote for WNBA for 3 months. And then when the season was over, they switched me into the NBA, and I did the NBA.
Come on. That's what I'm look at. You're a go-getter. So I gotta keep you around, Lauren. You gotta stay around. You're a go-getter. I might need you to hit up a couple of people for your boy. Go ahead and send them letters.
Yeah, I mean,
know what I gotta pay.
Every job I've ever gotten was from except for one, was from a creative letter that caught people's attention. So I've always had a thing with letters. I don't know. Even as a kid, I used to write letters.
It's a real thing. Like, so I have some skills too, Lauren. I don't mean to toot my own horn. I know it's the interview about you, but your boy can send emails too now. Like, I got a couple of I can hear myself.
Can you hear my dog crying? He's at the door crying.
No, I can hear myself. Did you turn it up so I couldn't hear your dog?
No.
Oh, I'm getting feedback now.
He's whimpering. I might have to open the door to let him in so he's quiet.
Go ahead, let your dog in. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry guys. I keep getting up.
No need to apologize. Where my dog's at? Where my dog's at?
I'll introduce you to the little guy. This is little Wiley.
Wiley, what it do, Wiley?
He's like, she locked me out. She locked me out.
You can keep him on your lap. It's all good.
You want to stay on my lap? It's my baby.
For some reason I'm getting feedback. Did you have headphones in or anything?
Nope.
Or is okay? I don't know what's going on. Could the audience let me know if they hear the feedback? It could be.
I don't hear feedback.
Okay, so I think we're good then. I was hearing it in my headphones and it's like tripping me out. All right, so we have your dog. Everything's good. So we're going to go into the writing. We were talking about writing and I was talking about my skills. You kind of just bypassed my skills for some reason.
Oh, but sorry.
I'm just playing. No, I do have some skills though. Like I do believe in like, putting my feelings into writing, so like I've sent emails to people like, hey, my name is Alan Levi Simmons. I make it like I'm somebody, right? It's like, I'm Alan Levi Simmons, blah, blah, blah. And I want this. And people usually respond, most of the time people respond. But what kind of tips do you want to give since like let's say right now someone, maybe they are looking for sponsorships, right? What kind of tips would you give? Do you have any experience with writing letters for sponsorships?
No, I don't actually. I don't.
Well, what are some tips for writing then? Like, what would you say? Like, what are like two advice you would give someone?
I'm going to give you one piece of advice.
Give me one. Just give me one.
So one piece of advice that I got that changed my whole ability to write. Mm-hmm. It was the best advice I've ever gotten. It's from a man named Willard Ogren. He currently works for the Black News Channel. And he was my boss when I was an intern at CBS in New York. And he told me, when you write, always write from your heart. The best writing comes from your heart. And that's why I think letters are so spoke to me so much, is because when you write a letter, it's something you write from your heart. Yeah. It's so easy to write from your heart when you're writing a personal letter. So the best writing is always writing that comes from someplace that's real, from your heart, from something genuine. And like the commas and the periods and all the grammar stuff, they don't mean that much as long as you're just saying something real. Like the technical stuff, anybody could figure out and can help you with. But telling somebody, opening up your heart and really being authentic and true and vulnerable, that's a story that can only come from you. And like you can show your heart through your writing. Yeah.
That's real. And I encourage a lot of people to write books. I'm like, hey man, you should write a book, especially if they have a story that like I hear and I'm like, wow, that just like touched me, or I could see that impacting a lot of people. So I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people may hold themselves back because they're not the best writers, or their vocabulary isn't, their dictionary isn't large. So they don't have all the large words to say. But like, if you say it the way that you desire to say it and you speak from your heart and you put it on the paper, and you hit up Lauren and get her to look over it, you do have like a service for that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, for members, we kind of just do whatever. We try to offer our members as much as possible. I mean, most of our membership is we help people write their own stories. We'll edit their stories and they can publish it on the site. We'll help them write a story and they can connect it to their blog or their podcast or anything that they want to promote. And then we're going to start doing writing workshops. So you can come on and we can give you writing tips, help you learn how to write. And if a member says to me, hey, like, can you give me tips on writing about this or writing about that? Of course, I'll always respond and help as much as I can with any specific writing. We don't necessarily, like if a member was like, hey, I need to write this for for my job, or we won't write stuff for people that's outside the scope of the Unsealed. It has to be for the Unsealed, but we do give writing tips and help people with writing.
Okay. So y'all heard that. Y'all heard that right there. Hit her up. I have her Instagram right here. Yes, you can reach her at lar.brill, or you can go to the.unsealed. Yes.
And if you go to theunsealed.com, you can message me right on the website, and there's a billion ways to contact me.
Okay. So she's reachable, guys and gals. She's reachable. I have her information down here. I did not put your website. Bad host, Alan. All right. So I didn't put her website, but if you put theunsealed.com, it will get you there. All right. So we're moving along. I know you got things to do with your dog. Your dog is like, feed me. But I wanted to ask you, me being a purpose person and you speaking to people who are living this purpose of telling their stories, what does purpose mean to you?
I mean, purpose means following your heart and finding something in you that brings value to other people's lives. Purpose is figuring out what you offer that's bigger than just you. That goes beyond yourself.
Yeah. I love that. And so with that purpose, what made you think like, okay, I can ghostwrite people's stories, like not just like have an interview like we're doing or just interviewing them. You were like, okay, I'm going to take my skills and write. Like, how did you connect those two?
Yeah, well, when I wrote an open letter to sexual assault survivors and I saw it go viral and I saw how powerful first person content was, I was like, well, what if I could lend my ability to write to other people's stories? And then we could amplify all these other people's voices, not just about sexual assault, but about all sorts of topics, whether it be mental health, mental illness, racism, sexism, LGBTQ+, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I could help all these stories get told, and I could help other people amplify their voices and lend my ability to tell a story to their stories, just to help them get it out there and help them express themselves and help them share their truth. And so it was really seeing the impact of sharing my own story that made me want to help other people have a platform and an outlet to share theirs.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I can't wait for mine to come out there, guys and gals. I know she's putting in work. She's like, boy, I told you it's going to be a little bit. Wow. So he said, hold on, let me see. Pastor Spell says, wow, this just popped up on my desktop. Fear foes not stop death. Oh, maybe it says fear does not stop death. It stops life. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Fear keeps you from living for sure. Fear keeps you from living. I know it kept me from living. I thought I was living. I thought I was living my best life, but fear was really getting me. So the Unsealed. So for people who, let's say they have their stories, they have their experiences, but they're like, no one wants to hear my story. Like, what advice or what would you like to say to those people who are holding back, from Unsealed?
I don't think you should think about it as whether or not people want to hear it. I mean, how do you know what somebody else wants to hear? Like, you don't get to decide what someone else wants to hear. Right. It's just a matter of if you want to release and share your truth, and you never know who it could inspire or how it could inspire them until you share it. There's so many stories that have reached me or touched me in a way that really enhanced my life, even though that person's story didn't necessarily mirror mine in any way, shape, or form, but the lesson I was able to apply to my own life. There's a great quote from Randy Pausch. He was a professor at Carnegie Mellon who passed away from pancreatic cancer. And he was just this brilliant professor. He did something called The Last Lecture. Google The Last Lecture if you guys want to be completely inspired for the night. But one of the things he said is, don't tell people how to live their lives. Tell them stories, and they'll figure out how it applies to them. Ooh, and so tell your story and put it out there and share your truth and see what happens. You never know how it could help someone. You don't get to decide whether it impacts someone. Someone else gets to decide that.
Come on. She out here coaching y'all. Y'all better go ahead and say, hey, look, membership, like, so real quick intermission. Let's membership real quick, because for the people that are watching right now, we said that you guys could go ahead and go onto the unsealed.com. And what is this like membership process of being a part of this community? What's that like?
Yeah, so you can sign up at the price of your choosing. So it could be, you could sign up for $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want. We run the company based on subscribers. So it's really just up to what the value you see in it. And then if you sign up, we'll help you write your story. We will promote your blog or your brand or your business or whatever it is. We just ask that all the stories you share are inspirational and they don't defame anyone. We have a weekly conversation where we invite on inspirational guests and each week, and you can come on and ask them questions directly yourself and have a conversation. Some people are famous, some people are just really interesting, some people are just are inspirational. Everyone from NFL players, coaches to actors and singers and people who have survived plane crashes and survived cancer and all different sorts of challenges that they've overcome. But we have all these people on every week, and members can come on and talk to them directly. We also help, as I mentioned, with we do writing workshops and writing contests, and only members are eligible for the contest. So we don't have like a crazy number of people that you're competing with. They're smaller contests just for our community, and we share the stories, and people bond with each other. And it's really a fun community, and it's really just a way to get people to engage and express themselves and use the written word as a form of healing and as a form of empowerment and as a form of inspiration.
Thank you for that. And I'm definitely going to be a part of this community.
Yay!
And
my day.
Hopefully I can just beat everybody every time. You know, I like to share it. So like, don't get me wrong. I love people. I love everybody. But if it's about winning, there's no, I don't hold back. You know, I'm a sports guy. I play football, wrestling, track, and I love competition. So for you people out there, know that I love you. But if you join the community, you will be riding against me as well. So I just want, don't be afraid. Never mind. I won't join. I'll join, but if I win, I'll just give it to whoever joins too, huh? Just kidding. I'm taking my monies. So I have 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap it up, and I'll let you get on with your evening. Okay.
What you got for me?
Okay. She ready now. Look, she woke up. She's like, okay, you should have said 2 more, boy. I'm ready.
What you got? Wiley wants to
know. So my question right here is, what do you see in the future for the Unsealed?
I hope it's a big media company that does lots of videos and tells even more stories and makes an impact and inspires people and makes people see that each one of us has a hero inside ourselves, and we're all our own heroes, and we all have the ability to do incredible, amazing things to change the world and also change our own lives.
Come on, change the world and change our own lives. So I'm gonna vote for Lauren. If she ever runs for anything, I'll vote for you. Just remember me. All right. So what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? Just somebody who was who had genuine compassion for other people and did something with that compassion that was tangible, that took effort, that took time, and really kind of put my money where my mouth was. Not only said I cared, but showed I cared.
Yeah. Come on. See, I'm voting for you. I don't care what they say. I'm voting for you. But definitely, Lauren, I really do appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story, being vulnerable and open and transparent with us. Is there any last words you want to share with people? Anything you want to say? Anything going on that you want like events or anything like?
Yeah, well, we have 2 writing contests going on right now. One to your younger self or to the next generation, and another one to an athlete who has inspired you. So I would love to get more people engaged and involved with that. And if you guys have any questions, message me directly. I would love to hear from you, and I would love for all of your viewers and listeners to become part of the Unsealed community.
So that's what we're going to have to do. That we're going to have to partner up with the Unsealed, and the Purpose Potters will be Unsealed.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Because I know a lot of people with a lot of great stories. So we're gonna figure out a movement to move a big community over to the Unsealed, so that we can inspire the world through letters, the open letters, the unsealed letters. I'm sorry, I'm so dramatic. But all right. So Lauren Brill, thank you so much. Let me make sure that I have everything situated. And lastly, for your puppy, is there any like, I don't have a puppy onesie or anything, so I can't, I usually send people never stop, never quit, repeat shirts. But I don't have anything for dogs yet. But
poor Wiley.
I'll figure something out. It'll be okay. But yes, Lauren. So thank you so much for joining me on the Purpose Pod, and I hope you have a good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please make sure you go follow Lauren on Instagram. I know she has a Twitter account, and join the community of the Unsealed community. Participate in the conversations and the dialogue, and follow Lauren on Instagram. I'm gonna put it back up right here. Once again, Lauren Brill, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
See you. That was Lauren Brill, the founder of the Unsealed. Lauren is brilliant, as you guys can see, and she has a lot to offer. I hope that you guys really enjoyed that. Amber says, great interview. Thank you so much, Amber. And I hope that you guys leave here inspired and ready to pursue your purpose, ready to pursue your journey. Make sure you follow Lauren. Make sure you participate in this writing contest. I am your host, Alan Levi Simmons, the poet, the man, the legend. All right. So I hope you have a blessed night. Make sure you subscribe to the Purpose Pod for all you people out there. Make sure you go on theunsealed.com and check them out as well. Peace.